It was 3 weeks ago today, only 3 weeks, December 14th, when shots rang out inside Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut, where, as we all sadly now know, 26 people, including 20 first-grade students, lost their lives. Yesterday, Sandy Hook students went back to class, albeit to a different school, as they and we try to return to normal and look for ways to prevent the next tragedy. And today, the people of Newtown were visited by a couple who know all too well what guns, gun violence, and spree killings can do. Former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords and her husband, retired astronaut Captain Mark Kelly, went to Newtown. These still images, the only images we were able to get of the visit. The pair met privately with the families of Sandy Hook victims. What they said is not known. We do know that Giffords and Kelly met this week also with Mayor Michael Bloomberg, a leading advocate for gun control. And again, while we don't know what Giffords and Kelly said to those families in Newtown today, we do know their reaction to the shooting itself. On December 14th, Captain Kelly took to Facebook and posted, quote, "We must sound a call for our leaders to stand up and do what is right. The children of Sandy Hook and all victims of gun violence deserve leaders who have the courage to participate in a meaningful discussion about our gun laws and how they can be reformed and better enforced to prevent gun violence and death in America. This can no longer wait." So many Americans have felt an emotional connection to Newtown in the days and weeks since the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary, and they're not alone. White House photographer Pete Souza released this photo as part of his 2012 compilation today, showing President Obama as he was being briefed on the Newtown shooting on December 14th. The president, seen in the photo with his eyes closed, would later call that day the worst day of his presidency. And in the weeks since Newtown, and in the spirit of that message from Mark Kelly, there has been a sustained call for new gun laws, or at least for a national dialogue on gun violence. And yesterday, day one for the new session of Congress, no less than 8 new gun laws were submitted for consideration. Among them, a bill that would ban high-capacity ammo clips like the kind used on Gabby Giffords in Tucson. Another would close the gun show loophole and require background checks on sales at gun shows. And guys, I want to go through some of these laws and as we go through them, get your reaction to them. And first of all, ammo clip ban and the gun show loophole. Is there any disagreement to those laws if they were passed? Would anybody at this table oppose those laws if they went into place?
I personally wouldn't, but I think it's important to look back to the original bill that expired in 2004. And what that did was specifically outline popular hunting rifles and sportsman used rifles that were exempt from it, and it was how the bill was approached to gain support from the other side of the aisle. I personally think those measures are common sense and reasonable, but there is some resistance to them, so they need to figure out how to get over that hurdle.
Well, the assault weapons ban, surprisingly, is not one of the bills that was submitted yesterday, although, and we're going to go through a little bit more of them, but when it comes to the extended ammo clips and the gun show loophole, do they have a chance in this Congress?
I believe so.
Really?
I believe they do, and I think that there needs to be more public pressure. There needs to be an outcry. There needs to be a parents' lobby. There needs to be a victims' lobby, not only in inner cities and urban areas, but in suburban areas where accidents involving guns. Years ago, there was an ad campaign about parents, before you send your children to play at somebody else's house, ask them, do you have a gun in the house? I haven't seen that in years, and I think it's time for things like that to come back and to raise awareness and consciousness of these accidents that happen. So yes, I think it could happen with organizing and with public pressure.
A good chance on the high ammunition clips. Less logic for why that might be needed. As far as closing the loopholes on gun shows, that one may be a bit more difficult. I can see the NRA trying to fight that, whether either publicly or behind the scenes, but definitely putting up some resistance to it.
Let me go through some of the other bills that were proposed yesterday in the first day of Congress, and these might have a harder time getting through, including one that would fix the background check system for gun buyers. It would provide incentives and penalties to make sure that states frequently update information, especially about people who commit felonies or are diagnosed with mental illness. Another would regulate ammo sales, so ammunition could only be bought in person and not online. It would require ammo dealers to be licensed and mandate reporting of bulk ammunition purchases. Another bill would require all handguns to be registered. Another one would create uniform licensing laws across all states and require safety training for anybody who wants a gun license. I have a feeling that the registering all handguns is probably going to be a problem. I have a feeling the NRA would oppose that pretty vociferously.
I'm going to go back to what I said weeks ago, was that I think whatever has the potential for getting done is going to be largely dependent on how the debate is approached. And if there is outreach to the NRA, these sportsman groups, pro-gun organizations. It has to be a back and forth dialogue, and they need to go to them. I know it sounds a little naive, but to say, if we do this, how will this help you? It needs to be a give and take.
I disagree. I think what the debate needs is you point to somebody and say, you're wrong, you're the bad guy in this situation, you're cut out, and now we're going to make a deal with everybody and anybody but you. In this case, it would be the NRA, and then you come along or you don't, and you cut them out of the picture.
I agree with you in terms of the logic, but how do you do that practically when basically the NRA owns several members of Congress?
I disagree, because the last assault weapons ban, they did take that approach to it, and it was the only thing that was effective. This is not an easy thing, and it's Democrats and Republicans. It's largely a regional issue that, you know, we're sitting here in New York in an urban area. It's hard to understand what the rest of the country thinks about it, but it's a very powerful lobby because of the people behind it. So if they have a two-way dialogue on it, I think if they're willing to make some other concessions, like maybe streamlining the cost and the bureaucracy with doing the background checks, that they will be more open to a conversation about it.
I think it needs to be much broader and much more aggressive and more muscular than that. I think to my progressive colleagues, we say all the money that's going into reforming marijuana legalization efforts, take that money and put it into this effort instead. You make a deal with law enforcement. You don't make a deal with the NRA. You make a deal with everybody but them, and you put tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars into organizing, and you make it a national crusade. And you do it by vilifying someone.
Can you actually negotiate with the NRA when they've publicly taken an absolutist position? I mean, Wayne LaPierre's press conference the Friday after Newtown, a week later, was absolutely no to any reform of gun laws.
But there's a precedent for it. I'm not saying directly engage the NRA, but if you go to certain members and give them a deal that they can save face on, that's the only way that you're going to get them to vote on even something symbolic.
I do agree with Jessica. Certain members of Congress, they've got to be provided with a way to save face. If they're not, it's going to be resistance, and it's just not going to happen.
Maybe it's just the move. I mean, I think what you do is those members of Congress, you make them wrong, and you make sure primaries are run against them.
There is too many.
You only need to take out a couple.
But a good sign is that Biden is in charge of this. Biden knows how to cut a deal. He knows how to make this work. He's been on this issue for a long time.
He's also a gun owner, though, and he was quoted in 08 as saying, "I'm not going to let Obama take away my guns." So
you can't be out there trying to make deals unless you have pressure coming from the grassroots. Otherwise, you have nothing to back it up.
Quickly, Michael, can this be done on the state level if Congress doesn't get it through?
Sure.
Could New York State do this, or California?
I think it could be done at the state level.
New York has it already. We have some of the strictest gun laws in the country.
Some of these laws aren't in place in New York either, just the ones that are being proposed. And before we go in this block, I just want to let you know the other two gun-related bills that were submitted yesterday. The first sets a minimum age for owning a handgun. That would be 21 under the bill. Another bill would require gun owners to file reports if their guns are stolen. We are going to keep tabs on all of these bills as they go through. We'll keep you apprised of their progress, and hopefully there will be some heady debate on some of them. We're going to take a quick break here on RFL. When we come back, more on guns, a different gun story, and one that's made a lot of headlines in our area. Should there be a searchable registry of gun owners? One local newspaper reacted to the Newtown tragedy by publishing personal information of people who hold gun permits within its circulation area, but now one county is fighting back. More on that next.